Hello and welcome to Them's Writing Words, a podcast discussing selected fanfictions from the world of pastel horse literature. My name is Scribbler, and I will be your moderator today, inasmuch as I ever moderate anything. Joining me for this blare, we have GutiuSerenade.
Hello, I'm not a background character this time.
Illya.
Good very early morning.
Neighrator Pony.
Hello.
Thornquill.
Good morning, everyone.
And Huni, whose voice may sound familiar because...
I'm Mommy, but now I'm Honey.
Right, so today we're looking at the fanfic The Secret of the Everfree by Jade Ring, as chosen by Neighrator Pony. The synopsis, as he is going to read it, is... This is generally how we do it.
It's been so long, we all forgot.
True, it has been like 6 months since we last did one of these.
It has been forever, and also time doesn't have any meaning anymore.
True. We're recording this while COVID-19 lockdown, so days just don't mean anything anymore.
Don't say the devil word, bleep it out.
Aha, I see we have another visitor.
What the fuck? Who is Beyonce? What the fuck is going on with your mumble room?
This is gonna keep happening.
Apparently people have been using our Mumble server for roleplay while we've not been around, and they keep turning up this morning.
Who did we invite?
We didn't invite anybody. The only people who have access to this server were in Them's Writing Words chat. So I don't know who has got into our server or what the fuck they've been doing while we've not been around.
Which one of you fuckers is it?
It didn't help that when we started this and they kept popping in, Gootie's name was... What was it, Gootie?
Okay, it was Booty a sex grenade, but I didn't do that. That wasn't me.
The fuck you didn't.
I haven't used this mumble thingy since the rehearsal for the BronyCon thing.
Yeah, but it just means that it gave somewhat of an interesting impression when these unwanted role players turned up.
You don't know that. It could have been Furryvore Porn Guy 69 or whatever.
I thought about making a joke during the introductions. I'd just be like, NP, no. I go by Furryvore 69 XXX now. The Furryvore Gangbang 69.
See, compared to that, Honey is quite reasonable.
It is, yeah.
Okay, shall we?
Do you want to start reading and I will just kick and ban whoever decides to come in here for sex sports?
Right.
Yes, the fic synopsis is...
The fic synopsis reads, shortly after the events of Health of Information, Fluttershy ventures into the Everfree Forest and learns what makes the ancient woods so magical.
The story was published on 16th of October 2017 and clocked in at 1,174 words. So, as ever, we're going to have the spoiler-free part of the review, and then we will go into spoiler territory, but we'll say when. To begin with, then, tags.
To begin with, then, I just want to fucking apologize to everyone for dragging you out of bed on Sunday morning.
Easter Sunday.
At 7 a.m. Easter Sunday at 7 a.m. Next time I propose, we kept putting this off again and again because we couldn't get everybody together. So Scribbler was just like, Scribbler was just like, yeah, just go and edit that out, please.
Yeah, NP, how dare you? I'm so busy during the coronavirus lockdown.
Well, so anyway.
Yeah, I was going to go to a big family gathering with all my extended relatives.
Still, if I ever propose that we record at 7 in the fucking morning on Easter Sunday, can somebody just do a sanity check on me, please? I didn't know that next Sunday was like Easter Sunday because I work nights and time already didn't have any meaning for me. But also, we're in the middle of a coronavirus lockdown, and so I just want to take this opportunity to apologize to everyone for dragging you out of bed. I'm an asshole.
Bold of you to assume I went to bed.
Yo, true.
It's 2 in the afternoon for me, so I'm fine. Me.
Oh, good for you.
Most of the time we're recording like late evening. I have to be up until 12 just to get onto calls with you a lot.
I mean, you can just speed run things. Just like take all the Easter eggs, throw them in a box, and then your kid's just like, "Hey, you found them! All right, let's get breakfast."
Oh god, Easter eggs! I had been holding on to 2 chocolate Thornton's Easter eggs from January for my mom and dad, and they were beautiful. One's a dinosaur, one's a unicorn. Except I hid them in the car.
Oh no!
Yeah, you can see where this is going. And we had a heat wave. It's a very, very sad, melty unicorn now, and one squished-faced dinosaur.
Excuse me, I am a Pegasus, not a melty-faced unicorn, and my name is not Thornton.
You should feel grateful because Thornton's is like good like chocolate.
I'll accept that.
Yeah, squishy-faced unicorn, which meant that I went and bought Kinder Bunnies to replace the melted Easter eggs. Guess what I dropped on the way to the car?
No way.
It's your chocolate allergy. It refuses to let you hold on to this shit.
Oh, it gets even
my
better
god,
because it was
chocolate
Mother's
is Scribbler's
Day.
kryptonite.
Well, I went to on Mother's Day, day before Mother's Day, to buy a small cactus, and I thought, oh, I'll get these Easter bunnies while I'm there. Fucking cactus attacked me. So yeah, I knocked the cactus over as I was putting it in the car. You automatically go to grab things you knock over, don't you? Yeah, the person in the car next to me was like, what is that weird high-pitched scream? And I'm standing there with lots of pink things sticking out of my hand because I'd bought a small pink cactus, going, the plant attacked me. Like, move away, slowly, move away.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate Scribbler's real accent coming out when she gets real excited and starts telling a story?
What? My real accent's always on view.
Yeah, it's a black country thing, right?
I was born in the Black Country, but I do not have a Black Country accent.
Oh,
you want to
unless
hear a
you're getting
proper
sassy.
Black Country accent? I can do one for you if
Do
you
it.
want. It doesn't
I
sound like
never
me.
understand a word of it.
Something. I always hear something about like a fucking. Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to swear or not, but like a button full of bollies or whatever the hell it is.
Ooh, man, I fucking us in this strat.
Ow, yeah.
Ow, am
Sounds
yow.
like Hitler.
Fugo. You man.
Food goals?
Yowam out us in the street.
Yowie?
Yowam. Yowam is you are, because they don't say are around here. It's am for everything. I am, you am, we am. So, awam yow is how are you? Awam yow. Yowam is you are. So, yowam and us in the street means you're as ugly as a horse in the street.
One more time.
This information will never be privy for me.
Yowam as drit as an os in the street.
Oh, I love that.
You're as straight as an ostrich?
As drit as an os in the street. As ugly as a horse in the street. As drit as an os
Okay, but
in
can
the
we
street.
discuss the fact that horse is os? Like
Yeah.
Aussie? Alright, I see y'all.
It's anos. A-N-O-S-S. Anos.
See, I've heard that, but I always thought it was os.
Oh, and
No,
arse.
horse would be down south, but it's an os here.
Yeah, an ass.
Ness.
No, an
No,
ass is
completely
an arse.
different. Yeah, completely different. Completely
Pronunciation.
different etymology. Yeah.
Yep. It's because, like, for hundreds of years, little British towns didn't go beyond little British towns, which meant that you had pretty much separate languages in different parts of the country, which then homogenized as travel and print became a thing. So the Black Country is actually the closest to Middle English, like Old English, that you will get in the modern day.
It's
I'm just not going to beat around the bush. I'll just call someone an asshole, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't have anything like that over in here.
I love your
Definitely not.
southern accents. I can never understand them, but I love them.
Man, y'all be tripping. What y'all even talking about?
Girl.
So, yeah, we're 10 minutes in and we haven't actually got on to point one. Who was it who said we'll definitely get to an hour on this?
I
All
said
of us?
nothing.
No,
Mhm.
of
I thought it was
Probably
going to
me.
be super short, but we're 32 minutes in. We haven't started yet.
Yeah.
Once
Well,
we actually
Illya fucked
start
right
the
off.
damn thing, we'll be good.
Well, we've had a vague English language lesson.
Do we want to wait for Illya before we proceed? No, I think he's back.
I'm back now.
He's back.
Begin
Let's
with the
crack on.
tags.
Okay,
Here
so
I am.
we're going to tags. And MP, we're going to start with you because it's your fic pick. Do you believe that the tags are accurate? They are horror and mystery.
Sure. Kind of a body. It's got kind of a body horror element and mystery. Sure. If world building was a tag, it'd probably be that too.
Guti, what do you think?
I think the proper way that I would identify with this, that I would identify this, would be fridge horror, which is some of my favorite type of horror, to be honest with you.
For the people listening, do you want to explain what fridge horror is?
Yes, fridge horror is essentially when something like a subject or a core element of a story is revealed much later, and then you but it's done in such a way that you realize that something that was foreshadowed much earlier makes you think, makes you think something like, oh, they were there the whole time. That's terrifying. Why would you do this to me?
Yeah.
It's like MP said, it's early, and I'm not putting that. I could probably put that in a more elegant phrasing, but
You're the height of elegance, even at 7 a.m.
Since I'm 6'9".
Okay, that was not what I meant.
Well, in terms of the mystery, I don't know, because we're already working with like and I'm trying to keep this summarized as best I can before I get into it, but with mystery, I didn't feel like there was enough there to kind of like, dig into, the mystery. Like when I was reading this, I wasn't feeling I needed I wasn't feeling in the back of my head, I wonder what's going on. You know what I mean?
It's not a whodunit.
Yeah. They're trying to, it kind of just gradually explains what's going on as the story goes on, and as short as it was, wasn't quite feeling the mystery, but I'll get into that when we get out of summarization.
Okay. Honey?
Yeah, I think the reason it's tagged mystery is because, like, it does have a question that it's asking throughout the story, but I don't know that I agree that inherently makes it a mystery, because I feel like every story has questions that the plot is asking you, but I didn't really get the sense that there was a lot of mystery to what was going to happen. Like, it's more like suspense, if anything.
Okay. Ilya?
I thought there was a great deal of mystery in it, but it was a lot of that stemmed from the fact that I didn't know what the fuck was going on most of the time. And it had its horror at the end. I suppose that's fridge horror. But so yeah, I'm okay with these tags. I'm not sure there's any that would be better.
And Thornquill?
Yep, I think I'm with everyone else on this. Horror definitely fits. Mystery, I don't know quite as much, just because it's this early in the morning, and when I actually need to compile my thoughts, it doesn't work.
All your thoughts are right here.
Thank you.
They were all about eggs and ass, apparently.
God damn it.
I am not explaining context for that at all.
It mainly stems from the whole story is the question of what actually happened in the heart of the Everfree Forest. Where it fell apart for me, spoiler-free version, is that from the beginning, I think it's pretty obvious what happened, and that kind of spoils the mystery from the get-go, but otherwise.
Yeah, I think I agree with Guti that horror does fit, but if you slice it down, fridge horror and to an extent body horror is more accurate. I also agree with Thorny. I didn't find it a mystery, but that was probably because NP has sort of told me what happened beforehand before we even started. So there was no mystery because I knew going in what the answer was. So,
sorry.
It's alright. We're going to dispense with the spoiler-free summary of the story because it's 1,000 words long, so the synopsis is the spoiler-free version of the story. If what we've said so far interests you, go and listen to it. We will provide audio versions, or go and read it for the actual version. We are going to break spoilers now. So the summary of the story, NP, with spoilers intact. NP.
He turned into a tree.
No! Very, very hard tree.
Wow, okay.
Whoa!
It's actually
good.
XX very hard tree 69XX.
I'd like to be a tree.
Thornquill has left the chat.
Maybe he's offline because it's his holiday, being some sort of Jesus and all.
Balls Jesus.
Oh, stop. Okay.
Why did you say that like Leroy Jenkins? Balls Jesus.
Balls Jesus.
The story is Fluttershy has some sort of hunch, and we don't know what it is, but she goes wandering off into the Everfree Forest to confirm, or to either confirm her suspicion or reject it. And she wanders around in the Everfree Forest for a while, and she comes across a bunch of trees. She first finds a carving in a tree. Oh, that's the poem is pretty good, actually. Let me just read that one.
Yeah, Jade Ring is quite renowned for putting poetry in his work.
Here we live without the royals. Here we share each other's toils. Here we work our magic spells. Here are houses and watery wells. Here are houses and watery wells. Here we live where none can see. here we remain forever free. So I thought that was quite good. But we come to surmise that this location in the Everfree Forest was perhaps not always a forest, and that there was an old settlement here. We presume a group of ponies living here who wanted to be free of Celestia and Luna's rule, and so they made sort of an isolationist society. But something dreadful happened to them. They all caught the swamp flu that we see in season 6. And they all turned into trees, and Fluttershy finds this out because she sees a bunch of trees growing out of the remains of old homes, and she examines one of them and sees an eye, and it's hard, and it's very, very horrible.
As disgusting as it is that there was an eye in a tree, I can't help but think that would have rotted by now.
I'm trying to, and all I could think was was it like a wooden eye? Did the eye turn into wood too?
It's magic. Magic.
Because magic, I guess.
A wizard did it. Right.
Anybody have anything to add to my summary? Synopsis?
I derailed myself by clearing my throat and then thinking, should I apologize and say I haven't got coronavirus for coughing? Or no.
Oh no, we're all gonna get it.
It's okay, I already Lysol'd the shit out of this room.
Don't joke about that. I literally saw somebody on Twitter the other day who was worried that you could get it from talking to people who've got it. Online.
Maintain a social distance of 6 decibels from everyone else.
Now, see, that's why you get one of those old Norton antivirus CDs and you paste that over your face.
Set your line spacing to 6.
Insert witty contribution. I got nothing for that, for once.
Oh, that's not even the worst one I've heard. The worst one I've heard was someone who thought that you could catch coronavirus from a Chinese takeaway. Specifically because... Clearly, and you've heard this one, literally, and they were not kidding. And I laughed and then thought, oh God, you're not kidding. This person thought that Chinese takeaways come from China.
Yes.
Now that is some quality
Spikes
shipping.
it over real quick.
I wonder why it tasted like bat.
Oh, Illya.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Did we set this story up somehow just serendipitously to match the current events, or is that an accident?
It is a story about a disease running rampant in the population. But I just want to point out that I chose this fic well before the coronavirus was a thing. I think it was probably
this was a month ago.
December or something.
Well, we last recorded in November because we were talking about the run up to Christmas. Yeah.
That's
I only edited
crazy.
that recently and thought, oh shit. Yeah, we last recorded in November, and you suggested this because you just listened to it for Month of Macabre.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
This is so weird.
So, serendipitous maybe? Coincidental, definitely. Right, I need to go and just check on the pork joint. I am roasting. MP, can you take over for a second while people give their impressions of the story overall?
Sure. Let's
Thank you, proper moderator.
let's start with Goody. Your overall impressions of the story?
Overall, I kind of feel like this could have been expanded upon in like a lot of different ways, and I also feel like my first thought about this was, this is called Swamp Fever. Why put it in the Everfree Forest? Like, I can understand, for the sake of there being trees, but here's something to consider. When we're in the show's canon during the episode about Swamp Fever, there's already trees all around the area, and a lot of the ponies from that area caught the fever, which leads me to believe, if you want to explore this idea, why not start where it all began? I mean, Fluttershy was already there. She's already making her rounds to the area. And Fluttershy in general, as the show went on, she became, more adventurous. Her kindness led her to, get out of her house more, and just you see her grow, like, having no issue traveling to new places, overcoming her shyness, and just being genuinely helpful, almost to a fault, like we see in the show. I don't know if I'm not entirely sure myself if the call to the mystery at hand would have just been like on a whim, or if she's just doing this in post from what happened in the show. But that part, yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about deciding if that's kind of in character for her.
We've got that in the doc, actually, the Fluttershy's characterization in this fic. So I imagine we'll get into that some more.
My mistake. I thought that's what we were on.
Yeah. I'm bad at being moderator. Oh yeah, you're right. Summary of the story.
Yeah, we were kind of doing general impressions, but it's hard to do that without talking about Fluttershy. So
we'll roll right into that after the next point. Anything else to say, Goody?
Nope. I think I'm good.
Honey, if you'll go next.
Is that right? That's about it. I mean,
well said.
It was so short. It's hard for me to have a definitive opinion on it. Like it was a popular headcanon when that episode came out. So Jade Ring wrote a fic about it. And is right. I mean, it wasn't like anything unexpected. And that's not to say that it was bad. Like, it was a perfectly well written little ficlet. It's just I don't have much to say about the premise because I saw this headcanon around, and like Jade Ring is fully aware that this is just a popular headcanon of the time that was made into a little ficlet to explore it. So beyond like character notes and maybe a couple comments on the style, like I don't really have much to say about it.
I'll be honest, I chose this fic because like we spun the wheel and I was not prepared at all after we recorded our last one. I had to think of something quick, and so I like immediately just like picked the very last thing I happened to listen to, and so here we are on Easter Sunday at 7 a.m. Illya.
Well, I liked it right off the bat because I'm very fond of expansion of ideas. I hadn't remembered the story. I hadn't remembered the show that it was from. So I had to go back and watch that. So it was all fresh in my mind when I read this. And I really enjoyed the fact that they went somewhere with it, a nice horrible place from a nice light tone. I thought that was a lot of fun. But I did feel like it wasn't fleshed out properly. There were a lot of questions I had that I feel could have been answered. So it was good and bad in some ways. But overall, I liked it.
I'm back.
Hello.
Hello.
Wait your turn. No, wait your turn.
I was apologizing for being gone longer than I thought I was going to be.
You are being very disruptive right now.
That is my whole raison d'etre.
Thordy.
I liked the story well enough. I think I'm with everyone else. I wanted more, honestly, which is a good sign for the story. I really did enjoy the mood and the tone. I'm all about these kind of Lost Village, deep forest horror kind of stories. So this is totally my shtick. I do think that the story, as it is less fridge horror than it is the moment of the fridge horror's realization. I think the episode itself is the fridge horror. I guess, I mean, that's actually kind of, dark. That's a bit of a theme for MLP, but yeah, they throw in an episode where there's a literal incurable disease where everyone slowly transforms into trees and is stuck that way for the rest of their existence. That's actually friggin' dark when you think about it for more than 2 seconds. And this story, what it does is it takes that moment of realization that someone will have watching the episode, and it puts that verbatim down into a story. I definitely wish that they had gone one step further and done just a little bit more, but as it is, again, with the mood and the tone, I still did enjoy it well enough.
Scribbler, general thoughts on the story?
I thought it was good. I don't think it really outdid its premise. I think the premise was the entire point of the story, and if you knew the premise going in, the story didn't really add anything to that.
Valid. As I was explaining to everyone while you were gone, I kind of chose this fic out of panic because, like, at the end of the last review we did, the wheel ended on me, and I had nothing prepared, and so I chose the very last thing I happened to listen to, and it was right after Month of Macabre, and here we are. But also just like this idea of like body horror, like transformation, like Kafka, it just really hits a nerve for me. I think I was scarred as a child by in Pinocchio when all the little boys get turned into donkeys.
Oh my god, I love that scene.
Me too.
Why?
It's amazing.
Really, you love that scene.
It's great.
This is a great scene. The bit where he yells and becomes a donkey, and I don't know. As a kid, that apparently was mine and Honey's jam.
What?
What?
That was like literally the most horrible thing I could possibly imagine. I'm pretty sure it's some kind of like metaphor about like skipping school and then you'll end up in like a menial, like dead end job or something. Oh, okay.
Or making an ass of yourself.
Okay, Goody, thank you.
No, Goody's right. That wasn't a joke. That was actually what Disney was saying.
Yeah, literally.
So it was just like the most horrible thing I could possibly imagine, because like, you know, even if you do manage to escape somehow, your family, and you do make it back to your family, they're just going to think you're a donkey. Your mother will never hug you again. It's just the most horrible thing I can possibly imagine. And it's the same thing. It's just like being turned into a tree, you know, and you're now like close to immortal. You'll never be able to speak to anyone or move from your spot. You're just going to go insane in your own body as centuries and millennia pass, and it's just a nightmare. So that just really just like, I don't know, it strikes a nerve with me.
I mean, that does imply that they're all alive within those trees, and the last line of the story is the long dead eye.
Well, it's even more horrible than that, actually, because you not only turn into a tree, but you turn into the plant that infects other people, and you know you will be responsible for this happening to others.
Okay, that's pretty bad.
It's a horrible, horrible notion.
The I must scream thingy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the next point on the list is characterization. Do we feel it's accurate for Fluttershy? But if you want, we can swap that around and do impressions of prose style. Which would people rather do first?
I want to talk about Fluttershy's characterization.
Yeah,
Okey
let's just go right into that one.
Okay, so characterization. Do we feel it is accurate for Fluttershy? We will start with Honey, since she seems to have quite a lot to say.
It's perfectly fine. Sorry, my cat is absolutely destroying the shit out of my couch. Give me just 1 second.
Yay! For once, it's not me.
How's your whatever you're cooking?
Pork joint. I set off the smoke alarms. I had to go and open the windows because the fat was burning.
Was it burned beyond belief?
The pork itself is not even close to done. It takes 2.5 hours, and it's only been in for an hour.
I heard smoke and joint.
And I'm back.
Apparently, Dream Illya was selling me drugs.
Isn't that just regular Illya?
No.
Nanobots in your eyes.
So anyway, characterization, Fluttershy. Yeah.
Go on.
It's not that I think that the story is out of character for her, because I can buy that she would go into the Everfree by herself, because we see her do it in the episode. And I can buy that she would be motivated by curiosity to do that. I would maybe imagine she'd be a little more nervous going as deep into it as she did, but I guess she's kind of already been there to an extent. I thought it would be an interesting premise to kind of expand on that idea that Fluttershy wouldn't want to tell other ponies about what she finds, because that was one of the more interesting plot threads in this little figlet for me. So it did make me think, like, does the author headcanon that maybe that's something that Fluttershy does more than once? Like, maybe living so close to the Everfree where all this weird stuff happens, you do encounter things that other ponies don't really know about. And has Fluttershy done this before, where she knows things that other people may not? And if they were going to expand on the idea a little bit, I would maybe want more of an exploration of that, because as it stands, we get into it later, but I'm not sure why she wouldn't want to tell anyone what she finds. Either just because it's so horrible, or she doesn't want to create false hope for a cure, or what. But that point did kind of stump me. Stump.
Well done.
I accidentally explored this by jumping ahead while you were checking your roast. I was saying that with Fluttershy's characterization, as she's grown in the show's canon, she's become a lot more, she's come a lot more out of her shell. She no longer is afraid of going, like Honey said, no longer afraid of going into the Everfree, and even did so just to see Zecora. In terms of trying to figure out this mystery, I'm not sure, like the mystery of if the same holds true for the Everfree itself. I don't know if that would have been something she would have tried to explore like right after her adventure, or if she just like decided to do it on a whim. If it's the latter, I'm not sure if I completely believe that, but there is a further point that I see on the list here that I'll get into when we get to it. But I'm kind of on the fence if she would just decide to try and figure out this, as we've been saying, fridge horror for herself.
Okay. Illya, what do you think?
I absolutely think it's accurate for Fluttershy, especially when you consider the show. She did practically the same thing, forged ahead when no one else would accompany her up to the bee tree and all. So, yeah, I think it's very accurate.
Neighrator?
It's not necessarily super out of character to think that late series Fluttershy would wander off into the Everfree Forest alone. That might be one little nitpick I have with the show itself. It seems like the Everfree Forest is kind of, sometimes it's a super dark and dangerous woods, and you should never go there alone. But also, like, cheerily takes the kids out there on nature walks sometimes. So it's hard to tell which Everfree forest that Fluttershy is going into in this story.
I always got the impression that after the elements of harmony had been returned to the Tree of Harmony, it kind of calmed down the Everfree a little bit.
Oh, that would make sense. This was another point I kind of meant to put in, but I didn't quite get around to. Like, it seems to be, if it's not canon, then maybe just like really well established, like fanon, that like the Everfree Forest itself is like was forged as a result of like Luna's banishment to the moon somehow. That like it's fanon. It's fanon. It's something I've seen a lot of stories in.
I think it's one of those things that, because the only flashback we had at the beginning of season 4 showed a little bit of it, and it looked like just a regular wood, and then Nightmare Moon and Celestia had their big battle above the castle of the two sisters. So people have kind of put 2 and 2 together and maybe got 5. Thorny, what do you think of this?
As for Fluttershy's characterization, I think it fits perfectly well. I don't know that I have too much to add on top of what everyone else has said about her. As far as the Everfree goes, I do remember reading somewhere that Lauren Faust had intended it to be more of a recurring setting, and that it would remain a more dark and malevolent place. After her departure, the show writers used it for a few more settings and made it a somewhat more hospitable place as they expanded outwards and whatnot. So kind of just, changing of writers and whatnot. I don't really care to make a value judgment as to whether, it should have been this or that. I don't really. I think it works perfectly fine. Was that your NP impression? No, it was not. I can't really imagine you saying something like
Listen
that, to
here,
be
you
honest.
little shit.
Hang on, isn't he taller than you?
Shut up!
Yeah. Maybe. But no, I do really like it when writers can use the Everfree Forest as that dark and malevolent place and pull off the tone really well, which Jade Ring does.
I will say that one of the things that you mentioned there was from the interview I did with Lauren Faust at BronyCon last year.
Did that come up?
Yeah, and one of the things that she mentioned was that the Everfree was meant to be like full of such wild magic that it was the portal to our world. And that's where Zecora came from. Zecora came from our world, and she was just a regular zebra, and the magic kind of twisted her, and that's one of the reasons that she speaks in rhyme, and there are no other zebras.
Okay, I'm kind of glad that direction didn't end up panning, to be perfectly honest.
Well, do you know who else was meant to come through the portal at one point?
Megan.
Megan was going to be part of FIM.
We were going to get canon humans in Equestria.
Before Equestria girls.
Does that mean like all real-world zebras think in rhyme?
I think it was something like that. The idea that like the chaotic magic twists whatever comes through it if they don't come from a magical world.
Crazy.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea, but, it's not what we got, so fanon. But yeah, that was one of the reasons why the Everfree was such a dark place, because it was meant to be like a hub of chaotic magic. And it was supposed to be linked to Discord in some way, which is why he was the Lord of Chaos.
And they do, in that flashback where they show Celestia and Luna defeating him for the first time, they do show him, like, planting all of those seeds that later turn into those vines after lying dormant for 1,000 years. There was some implication that maybe he seeded the entire forest that way, but you could go either way on that.
I like that idea.
This fic is so short. We are writing another fic in its place to talk about.
We do that no
We
matter
did that
what.
a lot. We did that with My Roommate is a Vampire, and that wasn't a short fic.
That's something that this story kind of embodies. It draws on all these different elements of lore that the show may or may not expand, and it brings them all together. So that's one fun thing that a story like this does.
Which does segue quite nicely onto our next point, which is impressions of the prose style. How does this story read? Is it trying to achieve any particular tone? How well does it achieve this? And I am finding it more amusing than I should that somebody is called Anonymous Beaver in the doc. Literally, I'm reading this and just suddenly it pops up with Anonymous Beaver.
Well, what's funny for me is that Anonymous Beaver is right next to Anonymous Narwhal, so...
Really?
Hey, they can be friends.
Oh my god,
So
wait,
Anonymous
it's sandwiched it's sandwiched between the Narwhal and the Anonymous Python. What's happening?
Oh my god, grow up. You're all so immature.
No!
Whatever you say, Furryvore.
Oh, no. You cannot say that without explaining the context.
Yes, I fucking can.
Apparently we didn't explain the eggs and the ass comments, so...
Oh!
Turnabout's a bitch, ain't it?
Shoes on the other foot now.
Okay, yeah. No, impressions of prose style. I'm going to start
Yes,
at the
prose,
bottom
God,
of the
please,
list
prose.
this time. Thornquill.
Oh my god. Okay. The prose style is one of the stronger points of the story for me. Like I said, for me, it carried much more on its mood and its tone. The poem is probably the best part of this story. It's, like everyone said, it's really well written. And honestly, I realized as NP was reading it aloud, just from a marketing and publishing standpoint, the poem should have been the story synopsis, not what they've got there that references the episode and whatnot. Like, that is frickin' beautiful. So, just, I don't even know what I want with that, but it's something that I really wish had been done.
Quality poetry.
The poem is probably the one bit of real mystery that I think I found in this story, because like I said, if this fits into the prose style or if it how well it achieves things, I think it does ruin its own mystery fairly early on by talking about Zecora turning into a tree, because then it goes into, well, Fluttershy's going into the Everfree to confirm a suspicion. What could she be worried about? I think we all know that she's going to find that ponies have turned into trees and died, or their consciousness died. That's probably a thing. So that part of the story is where it ruins its own mystery for me. I'm not certain how you could fix that, but it is, like I said, I knew from pretty much the second paragraph where the story was going to end. That doesn't necessarily ruin the horror element of it, but it does kill any suspense for me. So,
Neighrator?
Not a whole lot to add, aside from what everybody's said already.
What was it about the prose style that made this stick in your mind enough to pick it then? Because you already said one of the things about the premise that made you pick it, but what was this prose style? Because you listen and read a lot of... You listen to a lot of ponyfic. What made this one stand out in your mind?
What I said already, just the transformation, like body horror is like the most horrible thing
I
I
meant
can imagine.
specifically about the writing style, because you can have a really good premise, but it's ruined by shoddy writing. So what is it about Jade Ring's writing style that made this one pop for you?
Yeah, what Thorny said, just kind of the mood and the tone, the setting, the sort of sense of foreboding. Yeah, I just thought that was really well done. Jade Ring does that really well, in my opinion.
And I might even be able to expand on that if I'm permitted.
Of
Please.
course.
One of the ways this story works well is just the perspective it's told from. It's told as a bit more of a folklore horror, which again, I love that sort of thing. But it's got this very told around a campfire feel to it, even right down to the big reveal. You know, you can totally see someone sitting around a campfire, and then she saw the eye, you know, something like that. And it works in that way. It's just got this very subdued, I don't want to say smug, more just, you know, that the narrator knows everything that's going on and they're just waiting to tell you. And they capture that very well in their writing, I think. I make it sound cheesier than it is, but
it's really good.
It captures that fun in that way too.
Illya, what do you think?
I recall when I finished the story, the first impression in my mind was, this reads like a poem. This is almost a poem, because it was full of such good imagery, and it did leave a lot for you to contemplate that wasn't explained. I found that to be one of the shortcomings of the story, as far as reading it, was not really knowing what was going on in the beginning, which is okay for a mystery, but not really knowing what's going on at the end is not. But I absolutely adored it for the style, for the imagery it evoked. But it does seem like the whole thing's a big poem to me.
Excuse me, the whole thing's a big porn.
He said poem.
It didn't
Where
sound
is your
like
brain
porn.
at?
You know where my brain is.
The whole thing is a big poem to me.
We all heard poem, Scribbler.
Well, apparently I've got my volume down to too low.
Is that what you call it these days?
I live on my own. Shut up. It's been a very long lockdown. Okay, so, Honey, what do you think of the prose style, not of my lockdown?
Well, first I have to agree with NP about the quality of the poetry. And yeah, and besides that, it's overall pretty good. I don't really have any negative points about it. There were little moments that stuck out to me as interesting. Like there's this part where she's walking through the Everfree, and I felt like Jade Ring caught that kind of familiar trepidation really well. Like she's wandering hours long into the Everfree Forest, but after describing how the trees are blotting out the sun and it's getting all dark, it's described that she stops to take a break to, nibble on some snacks and eat some water. Eat some water, yep. Eat some water. Drink some water. Yep, yeah. Just take out a fucking ice block and crunch it down. And she's listening to the chattering of small mammals and the chirping of birds, and there's a breeze, and it just felt like such this wordless moment of comfort in the middle of this dark, eerie forest that kind of conveyed that at the same time that she's unfamiliar with this place and she's never been this far into the forest, she is comfortable with nature and all forms of nature, even when it's this chaotic kind of eerie, suspenseful place. So I really liked that. Beyond that, there were a couple minor grammar notes that irked me, but I get the sensation that this is very much here's an idea, I'm gonna make it a ficlet, boom, it's done. I don't think this was written with any kind of this is my magnum opus involved. So a couple hitches here or there I can forgive.
And Guti?
I will be honest, I did not have much to say on this particular topic, but then after hearing Thorny start off, I kind of got hit by the sledgehammer of epiphany. And that is when it comes to the poem, yeah, I'm agreeing with everyone. That was poem was very well done, but I feel like it does weaken the story overall by being in the story itself and not the synopsis, because I feel like the poem is trying to tell you something. In the synopsis, it's going to tell you, it's going to lay the groundwork. But in the story itself, it almost sounds like that every line of this poem is going to matter somehow and is going to be explained. Well, to reflect off of what Illya was saying, I don't feel like everything was explained. Like, it was talking about, like, our magic. Our magic. Those words sat with me so long throughout the fic, and I thought there's going to be some kind of, deep lore, some deep non-canon lore that was going to be explained, but there was, like, if there was some kind of message about, magic that this particular tribe held, I wasn't picking up on it. I wasn't understanding what they meant by our magic. And so, I guess...
Oh!
Go ahead.
I'm so sorry. You're in the middle of talking. I just interjected very rudely. After you finish, let me just say it.
Okay, no worries. I wasn't entirely feeling like everything in the poem was conveyed to the furthest extent. Like it hit the focal point with the poem, but then it kind of just kind of floated off after that because I didn't feel every aspect of it was explained to me. But if you have light to shed, by all means.
Well, so it's in the poem. It says, "Here we work our magic spells." So we assume that they are. This was a colony of unicorns, maybe exclusively unicorns, and maybe they were isolationists because they disapproved of the all the tribes coming together, or maybe this was the last colony of alicorns. Just a thought.
We're doing that thing where we're writing a new fic.
Yeah,
exactly.
I will say that, and after I finished the story, I thought about that, but at the same time, I don't know if that necessarily explains, the transition between, being a tribe of unicorns or some semblance of magic users. I don't see the transition from that into the magic went wild, and that's why the Everfree's chaotic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was a bit puzzled by all that, but yeah, that's me.
Honey?
So I haven't seen the original episode in a long time. I don't remember if it was ever explained what the origins of the illness were. But if that poem is referencing a tribe of unicorns specifically, it could be possible that this village Fluttershy finds is where it started?
Could be. We go far enough back, because the show rarely seems to understand the concept of how long 1,000 years is. So it's conceivable that in 1,000 years, an entire forest would have sprung up around this one tiny settlement. Tony?
It's funny because I both agree with you, Guti, and I don't. I now that you said that, I do remember thinking that the poem made me think that more was going to happen, something bigger was going to happen at the end of the story than actually did, and that was a little bit of a letdown for me. The story seriously gave me such Story of the Blanks nostalgia vibes, if anyone remembers that old
I still love that.
It's like I said, serious nostalgia, and I kind of expected that she was going to get, I don't know, maybe some kind of haunting from the consciousness of the trees, or encounter some kind of malevolent presence that would try to influence her, not just see a little bit of spooky gore and run away screaming. And I can't decide if I think that works to the story's betterment or detriment. Maybe both, just because we are left as readers to do a bit of our own homework and say, okay, who was here? Was it the result of their more powerful magic, but they came up against something that they couldn't handle, and as a result, their magic got imprisoned in trees, but because it was them and not just some more ordinary ponies, they created the Everfree Forest by being turned into this, and now their magic is everywhere and beyond their control? Or is it just that a bunch of ponies turned into trees because they didn't have any way of dealing with this disease. I do like that it leaves it to the reader to kind of build a little bit of their own headcanon at the end of the story. But I still think that the end is a bit anticlimactic.
I think you've just typified my point for me, that I thought that the prose style was solid. It was, if I give the pun, it was something of a workhorse. It did the job it was supposed to do, but I didn't really get much out of it. But then again, when there's stories where you feel like you're building to a point, it is easy to skip over anything in the prose, because just like, oh, get to the good bit. What's going on? What are we building to? What's the end point? And then it felt a bit of a damp squib. To resurrect a point, it was fur coat and no knickers. That never gets old.
Maybe there's a balance to be struck between like hand-holding your audience all the way to the exact specific conclusion that you personally were leading to, and also just leading them, as opposed to letting them draw their own conclusions.
I think there is probably a balance. I'm not sure that this fic really achieved it, though. Honey?
I will say, now that I'm thinking about it, I think there was kind of missed opportunity in having it be Fluttershy that went back to find if there were ponies who turned into trees or not. If my cat does not stop playing in the blinds, I swear to God. He is so calm and good and nice and sweet until I decide I need to record, and then he's found his toy mouse in the middle of the loudest thing in the house. Anyways.
Yes, I've just been through lines you sent me for April verse, where suddenly it was like, and I'm gonna kill my cat!
Yeah.
Knock my microphone off.
And it's always Nuka, too. Ninja is such a little angel. She's just my sweet little old lady. But Nuka, my bastard hellion adopted child. Anyways, so I do think there was a bit of a missed opportunity with Fluttershy being the element of kindness. Like, you would think she would feel compelled to do something for these ponies, but it ends with her running away, and I can't help but feel there's a missing scene where she goes back and has to deal with what she thinks would be the best thing to do. I think that moral conundrum for her would have been really, really interesting and maybe been a more satisfying endpoint to a story like this. I hope you can hear him being
Yeah, we can.
I really
can
hope
all
you can
hear it.
I hate him so much.
Oh, no, you don't. You love him. He's your son.
I do. He's got his little broken leg stuck on the table. God damn it.
What the fuck?
He has a bum leg, and he ran over to say hi to me and purr chirped at me, but he clotheslined his leg on the table leg.
Oh, Luca.
Yeah, anyways.
I love you.
Says, I'm ready to be rid of it.
Just a quick bonus question, if we're wrapping that one up, just to expound on what Honey said a little bit. Would the story have been better or worse if the eye had like turned towards Fluttershy? And, like,
I was waiting for that to happen. Like, finding a dead eye, fine, okay. But if it then turns to you and you get the idea of, holy shit, they're still alive in there.
I think that would have made it much more horrible.
Yes.
Because that's like the implication that that pony who's been turned into a tree has been conscious all this time, just in silent agony.
Yeah, one question that the story does not answer, that it might need to a bit more since it's based off of the episode. Why is the question never asked whether these ponies can be cured or not? Because we know that Fluttershy herself is the one who discovered the cure for this thing. And the story does kind of answer it. It says it's a dead eye, so we assume that even though the tree is still alive, that the pony has reached a state that it can't recover from. But I'm with Honey. I think it would have been more interesting if something just a little bit more had been done with that.
Or just, it would have been more in character for Fluttershy to think, oh, could I use the cure on them since I have it?
Exactly. I mean, imagine if she went into the forest in the first place, looking to see, with the cure, looking to see, maybe this isn't what happened. That's too horrible to imagine. But just in case it did happen, I can cure them too. I can save them just like I saved Zecora. And she gets there, but something about them has gone too far. And maybe her cure even partially works, but that's what gets her killed at the end. I don't know.
I like the idea of it partially working and these half tree, half ponies going, what have you done to me? Like,
Yes.
oh gosh, there was an old comic that was turned into a dub in early fandom of the pony statues in Celestia's garden, where Twilight wonders, would Celestia have turned ponies into statues like she did Discord? And she half turns one back, and it's just screaming. So she has to turn it back to stone. And it thought it would be something like that.
Which, it kind of is a double-edged sword, because if you do that, then there's no more question in the story like we've been discussing up to this point. Like, who were they that we, as the readers, are left with? But if I'm honest, I don't think that question is quite as strong as the scene that could have been written. So, I don't know, just a bit of mind waffling on the part of someone trying to figure out how to design stuff like this.
I've just linked that comic. It is a minute long. I would like people just to go and watch it briefly. I will link this in the description for people listening to this.
There we go.
Yeah, I thought the story was going to be something like that.
It's just a small side note, but I never read the story, but I remember years and years ago, there was a fanfic going around on fanfiction that had as its cover art, if I'm remembering correctly, I might be making something up, but of Celestia partially petrifying Twilight, and the implication of the story was that Twilight had discovered Celestia did something like this and was going to have to bargain her way out of being petrified by Celestia to keep that knowledge from spreading or something. I never read the story, and I can't remember the author or the title or anything. I wonder if I could find it again, but I'm wondering if this concept has been done in another story as well.
Probably, but it's a good concept.
Remember at the end of season 9 when they turned the child into stone, entombed them in living death?
Still have feelings about that. Yep.
Yeah, I think a few of us do.
Yeah. Well,
Oh my
guess
god!
I'll see that when I see it.
I haven't watched season 9 either.
What?
Dude, I'm
you
like
people?
mid-season 8 still.
I've got to admit, I haven't watched past the end of season 6.
What the fuck?
But I
Didn't miss
do
anything.
know about the ending. And I watched the Christmas special because I watched it when Xena came up for Christmas.
That is such a
Don't judge
crazy
me.
phenomena to me. I'm not judging you. I just think it's super interesting because we'll all go.
Interesting.
What does it say about?
euphemism.
What does it say about? What does it say about the fandom in general that like we all get like super worked up about fanfics and we'll talk for literally hours and hours about it. We don't even bother to watch the show that spawned it all.
That
That's
being
more than
exactly
the
the
writers.
point. That's
Honestly,
precisely the point.
Fandom
to me,
is
it
more
just means
interesting.
that being a fan doesn't mean consuming everything a franchise has to offer. I'm a massive Star Trek fan, as anyone in our servers will tell you to their annoyance, but I've never seen Star Trek Enterprise, and I've barely seen Voyager. I watched it once and I don't remember half of it. So I'm a Star Trek fan, but I don't consume all of Star Trek.
Voyager's pretty much the only one I have seen all of. And that was
You
'cause I
had a crush
massive
on Captain Janeway.
And Harry Kim. Equal opportunities crushing.
Wow, we are way out in the woods. What the hell?
We
is
are,
the
yeah.
topic?
So this is Illya's point next, which is please explain to me why Fluttershy could not reveal what she had discovered. Illya, you want to take this one?
We can roll that
Absolutely.
right into the point after that too, which is mine.
Yeah, okay.
For
So the
sure.
point afterwards
I
is
mean-
why is Fluttershy looking for some bauble, a false toy perhaps, that she could bring back with her as proof of her incredible discovery if she never meant to tell anyone? I don't know who wrote that point, but they kind of
That
roll
was me.
together.
Well, the problem is twofold. One, perhaps they never told us why she couldn't reveal it to anyone. And the more frightening thing to me is that it was quite clearly explained, and I'm too much of a dunce to understand it. So I was just hoping someone could explain it to me.
No, I don't think it was explained. I had the exact same question. Honestly, I think it's the big weak point of the story. My feeling is just that it was written that way because that's how stories like this tend to end. Whether it's a creepypasta or a short horror or whatever, a lot of those
Yeah.
stories will end with, and they knew they could never tell anyone. But in this story, there's absolutely no reason for it. It's not that no one would believe her because a bunch of ponies have caught this disease now. And it's not that anyone is in danger from the knowledge. It's just The only thing I can come up with is it's just too horrible a thing for anyone else to have in their heads. And that just makes no sense to me.
Like the Darren Stevens syndrome, where no one can reveal that Samantha's a witch, although it would be much better story to me if they would actually do that.
MP?
I have the answer. I can explain to everyone. The
Go
title of the fic is The Secret of the Everfree. And obviously she's got to keep a secret. Like, the blatantly obvious truth of the Everfree would be not nearly as catchy a title, and therefore she had to keep a secret. You're welcome.
Because the
Boo
plot
hiss.
says so.
Unfortunately,
Your tongue is firmly in your cheek, I assume, on this one.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it was Donnie said about creepypasta. Yeah, I did get very much a creepypasta vibe about this, and I've got to admit that's one of the things that does irk me about a lot of creepypastas is that cop out of an ending. I wrote one recently just to see if I could do that, and I hated the ending. Specifically because, oh, okay. What a damp squib that was.
and I mean, if you're writing a story that's set in the real world, then at least that makes some sense because, yeah, odds are no one would believe you, but let's be real, it's still something that's been done enough that you should try to avoid it.
I think my headcanon is going to be that this is something that Fluttershy has some sort of sinister design on. So she's not going to tell anyone because she has ideas to exploit.
Oh dear. Is this
Ooh.
Fluttershy the cult leader again?
Wow.
Cult of trees.
Someone in the comments of this story did make the point that this has very sinister possible applications as to why all of the trees in Applejack's orchard are named.
Oh.
Wow.
Might or might not have an idea to carry that one out that I never will, let's be real.
Please do.
We have
Please
written
do.
like
Please do.
5 stories in the course of discussing this one story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the question. Does are there different strands of the flu to make turning into a
Yeah, that
different
kind
type
of makes
of
sense because
tree?
one kind of tree grows in the swamp and the other kind apparently grows in the Everfree Forest.
And there's another bit in here, too, about the well. There was a well they felt like they needed to mention a couple of times, once that it was there and once that it was dry. It makes me think, wow, they delved too deep into the mine and found something in the well.
Hey, that's not bad. All right, that's 6 stories. Or it could be just because they needed something to rhyme with spells.
Yeah.
Most likely.
I just assumed that the water was infected and it had been so long that it had dried up in the interim.
Swamp water.
Exactly. Like they drank
Oh,
water that
damn.
had been contaminated, and then because it's been 1,000 years, there's no more water.
Yeah, so just a quick comment on the little part about the wanting to bring back some bit of evidence. I had 2 thoughts on that, and then a possible theory on why she might not want to tell other ponies about this, but it admittedly does not hold a lot of water for very long. I genuinely think it just wasn't something that the story needed to think about very much. It's just the premise is she's not going to tell anyone. It would have been more interesting if that had been explained, but whatever. So it does point out that she's kind of caught up in the reverie of finding this village in the middle of nowhere. So I think she had maybe forgotten for a moment why she was there, and she was so excited to have found some evidence of life so deep in this scary, inhospitable place that her immediate thought was, I need to tell other ponies about this. I need to prove it. But, oh, wait, that's right. That's why I'm here. So I think that might have been the intended implication, is she got wrapped up in being excited about her curiosity culminating in something and then remembered that she was there for this horrible, awful reason. The other possibility is, while she doesn't intend to tell anyone about it, she does want some proof for herself. So if she ever starts to doubt that this was real or something, she can look at the toy or whatever and be like, oh no, I did actually go out on this, big excursion adventure and risk my life to find out risk my life to find out this horrible truth that I'm not going to tell anyone. The only reason I can think she wouldn't want to tell anyone is to not risk anyone else getting infected. because it is a highly infectious disease. I can't remember if there was a specific to how you get infected beyond just being near the flowers or the spores or whatever. But if she's discovered an entire village of these kinds of super infected trees or whatever, then it would be possible that even just like a couple of other ponies going to see it, not knowing how to navigate around the Everfree Forest the way she does, they could get infected.
Very plausible. Okay.
Yeah. And certainly more in character.
I feel like you'd put up the responsible thing to do would be to put up warning signs and stuff, but
Yeah, you'd think, wouldn't you?
You just synthesize a bunch of that honey and it's all over.
Can you synthesize it? Or is that an extra bit of figgery where somebody tries to synthesize it to treat someone and it goes completely the wrong way?
I thought it was some sort of pun on Honey's name.
Oh.
But yeah, I mean, no, they
me too.
established that the cure has
We
been
have a Luna.
almost impossible to get a hold of, but
Or is it?
now it's actually quite easy to get a hold of if you just literally have the right mask. So, yeah.
Oh, masks. Well, fucking masks. Can't get masks. Government doesn't give them.
I want to just pet peeve for a second. This is
Can we
silly.
just say hello to Luna?
Hello to Luna. Oh, Luna's in.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Luna's in.
I don't
It is
see her.
Luna. I'm talking to her in
Is
Discord.
it? You sure
Who is
it's
she,
not
admin?
someone in disguise?
Oh, there she is. I'm sorry. I was looking for something like Furry Vor Gangbang 69.
Right, sorry, carry on, Illya.
Well, now we sort of need to be Luna-centric, I feel.
I think she's gone to get breakfast. She signed in and then
My-
gone to get some food.
My point's a silly one, really. But I just said, in so many, especially cartoon things, they show people getting honey from hornets' nests, and I just never have liked that very much. Real honey, what do you call the things that bees, hives for honeybees don't look like hornets' nests, really, to me.
I
Sorry,
find the
that's
hornets
stupid.
more comfortable.
That's
Why? I
stupid.
hate hornets.
I mean, the apple trees don't really look like they do on Applejack's farm either, but
Yeah.
They do in my world, they look exactly like that.
they're more of a glorified shrub.
Well, it's still good for climbing, though. I don't think Applejack's trees would have been that good for climbing. It's like 2 branches and some massive moss at the top.
I'm sure Rainbow Dash
Okay,
begs
for
to
some
differ.
reason I can't hear anyone. I'm so sorry.
Hello.
Are you there?
Can you hear us now? Janig your settings, Luna.
An entire fanfic about gamer Luna trying to get her setup to work, but she can't get the audio drivers right. NP, that one's yours. I don't know how to make that entertaining. That's probably just a bad idea.
He's in the bathroom.
Well, you'd
Well,
have to teach
fuck.
Luna what an audio
I just-
driver is.
just got back from my pee break. What I missed?
We have a Luna, but she can't get her audio to work.
I'm trying to
Oh.
figure out why I want tacos so early in the morning. I really want tacos this early in the morning.
Oh man,
Tacos
Breakfast
open
tacos are a
on-
thing.
On Easter Sunday, though?
Oh, I can't get
There is-
anything. on
when is
Easter
there a
Sunday.
bad
Everything's
time?
closed.
I meant that everything's
is
closed.
there a bad time for tacos?
Wait. Does Scribbler not know that tacos are like a traditional American Easter food?
Hi, am I
Breakfast
audible?
burrito.
You are audible, yes.
Breakfast
Yes, you
burrito
are.
on
Hello.
Easter Sunday.
Wonderful. Hello.
Hello.
Luna, I really need to know your feelings on Easter burritos.
I've never had them.
That's because you're the British one.
She's more British than me.
Well, we're gonna change.
Chocolate
Well, I'll
rolled
change
in a
that.
tortilla.
They make
Mm.
that.
They do.
That-
Why
that's
am I
just-
not surprised?
That's just a
that That's a
crepe.
thing in America.
Like,
That's
can I
just a
tell-
crepe.
Can I just tell a quick story?
Go on.
Yeah,
So
crepes.
I had this coworker at Apple who was a huge gamer nerd, like little Japanese kid, who was really, really into video games. And I used to mod Xbox consoles and then sell them on Craigslist. It was super dodgy. But anyway, I was getting out of the business. I had some excess stock, and so I gave him one of my modded Xbox consoles. And he with loaded with like emulators and like tons and tons of games and stuff like that on it. And I handed it to him, and it was this like rare, like mint edition, like green, like Master Chief Edition Halo Xbox with like a huge hard drive that I installed and all this stuff. And I'm explaining to all its features and stuff like that. His eyes just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And he his English wasn't great, but he just evolved into speaking Japanese. He just kept bowing at me. And from then on, for as long as I worked at that store, every Thursday, he would bring me from the supermarket a Choco Taco, which is a particular ice cream treat, because I had said one time that I like those. And he brought one to me every single Thursday without fail. And he presented it to me with both hands and did a little bow every time. And it was just the cutest fucking thing ever.
Oh,
And I
that's
miss him so much.
adorable.
Neighrator-san.
It was. That's what he said. I won't say my first name, but he said that every time.
Aww.
Domo arigato, Neirator-san. Every time, exactly like that.
Aw, that's adorable.
So anyway, that's my
When you
chocolate
say it in
taco
your
story.
voice, I just imagine like this gruff samurai lord.
Hoi,
Segata Sanshiro.
Neirator-san.
That advertising campaign never came to the UK. So
I
I heard
guess
about
not.
it years ago and started watching about Segata-san. I was like, what the fuck is this? Right, should we go back
I
to the
really
fic,
want
or-
a chocolate taco now.
Aw, you
No,
could
fuck the
make one.
fic. I need a choco taco.
Ooh. We're
Well,
like
sorry.
3 points
Illya
from
and
the
NP are
end.
going on to Taco Run. We're just going to finish up here.
Yeah.
That would be a classic NP move. Call everybody in on Easter Sunday morning at 7 a.m. and then go.
And then fuck
or
off for
go on Taco
tacos. Okay,
Right.
Luna, have
Is
you read
this
the
story
story?
more than it's shit? Sorry.
I did not. I had
Okay.
made plans to do so, and then
It's fine.
everything else happened yesterday, including making a ridiculous video with my roommates attempting to recreate Easter liturgy.
I haven't
Ooh,
seen
we
it
can
yet.
tell her what it's like. We can tell her anything in the world and have her expound on her ridiculous idea.
Okay,
We begin with Furry
69,
Vor.
you can do that.
No, seriously, that was the thing.
No, what actually happened was they had me come down and help them with the music part of it, because I don't know shit about Bible readings and whatnot. So I only had to do that. They had us, and then one of us got inspired to like film all of us recording it on a melodica and a drum, and then have me standing in the middle behind the altar, eminently appropriate place for me to stand, of course. And I didn't have an instrument, and I wasn't singing because they were just doing it an instrumental intro to this one song that they do. NP, I don't know if you've seen that video from her despair of the one music video. I think it's the one of Blaspheme with Me.
I don't think I have, no.
Shit. Standing there thinking, I'm really feeling this music, and it would also look kind of dumb if I just stood there behind this homemade table altar with flowers. So like I decided I was gonna like hold up my hands like as if I was praying, and then like inspiration hit me again, and I started to like raise my hands up like a complete lunatic. Like, you know how like there are those pictures of people standing on a cliff and holding their hands up to the sky?
Did you do the bat screech like you did at BronyCon?
No, I was very appropriate.
Missed opportunity.
It was still funny though, because I looked like a complete nutcase.
I'll have to. It's all queued up on my
It's at
YouTube.
19. It's at 19. The timestamp is 1955 in the video. I posted it in the readers chat.
I look forward to that. Would you like to? So we can catch you up on this fic in like 2 seconds. Are you ready?
Sure.
The Fluttershy goes into the Everfree Forest and discovers a grove of trees that used to be ponies, because like in that one episode in season 6 where ponies turned into trees, turns out the whole Everfree Forest is made out of ponies that got turned into trees.
Is it spooky though? I have like I'm in Divinity 2, like there's an entire culture based on the idea of you literally turning into a tree when you die.
And also, Speaker for the Dead, the sequel to Ender's Game, which was not any good and nobody should read it. Also, and Orson Scott Card is a racist asshat, but
Oop.
I digress.
Aren't they all?
So yeah, now you're all caught up. Scribbler has made me the narrator moderator, so let's crack on. Did we get around to
Reggie?
answering that one while I was in the bathroom? Is the story more than just its premise?
We were just about to start that.
Sorry, let's start with Goody.
I'm not sure if this means the same thing as the question I suddenly typed earlier. So I'm not sure if this gets kind of wrapped all in the same burrito or.
Probably. We have a tendency to sort of bleed our points together. That's all right.
Okay. I try not to do what I did earlier by like skipping ahead to other points. I was sort of jumped frog hopped over when it came to the previous points we were discussing, but that's okay because I want to bring those into this whole thing too. And to start, it did drive me crazy that when I saw the lines, when I read the lines, she could not tell anybody. Why not? There was she's not cursed. There's nothing stalking her. There's nothing, no kind of creature out there. There's no pony FBI monitoring her. But at the same time, Honey brought up a good point with how, if there's a disease at hand, do you not tell anybody about it to keep people, just in the dark about it? Or do you tell people to, forewarn them to not
I think recent events
curiosity.
have demonstrated very clearly which is the correct approach and which is not.
Yeah, exactly. But that brings me into this other point. You're telling me that the thing is like for 1,000 years, which man, Equestria must have sucked 1,000 years ago. When you consider Nightmare Moon, Sombra, and everything else that all that shit happened.
Honestly, I think 1,000 years is just like an approximation because Celestia can't remember shit.
We all just lived through 2019 and 2020, and you're gonna act like it's unrealistic for all that shit to happen at once.
Thank you, honey.
What's this? What have I walked back in on?
Oh, I was just saying that Equestria must have really sucked 1,000 years ago for everything that happened back
1,000 years ago.
Sure.
And now.
I mean, we're only 50 years away from the anniversary of 1066.
Yeah.
What was the king's final words then? Oh look, the sun's coming out. Because he got an arrow in the eye when he looked up.
That reference is lost on me. I'm sorry. I'm just
Yeah,
not
same
nearly
here,
English
as good.
history, and I'm in a chat with a bunch of Americans and one English American. I'm not quite sure how to categorize you, Luna.
Oh, good grief.
Luna, you've been accepted as one of their own. Your assimilation is nearly complete.
Well, the first time I ever heard you speak years and years ago, I thought you were Dutch.
Yeah,
At
because
first-
that was because I was trying to water down my actual learned accent to and it didn't work.
It was interesting. I legit thought like, oh wow, European bronies. No.
Well, there's also the fact that I was like also obsessed with German musicals at the time and might have picked up a bit from that.
The very first time I chatted with you, I was like, wow, your accent is so nice to listen to. Where are you from? She's like, yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania. What?
Yeah, you called her a liar.
I love how everyone with an accent is just Tracer to NP.
You know what?
I feel
You know
like we've
what? Who even
interrupted.
asked you?
Thorny can do a pretty good English accent.
That's that last son of Dublin. That's right. I did a whole thing sounded exactly like Tracer, didn't I, Thorny?
You did.
Hey,
There, it's okay.
I'm sorry, Guti. I think you were trying to make a point and
Sorry,
we
and then I-
interrupted you.
I-
once upon a
Landing
time,
back in
Goody
chat.
was talking to the point in the doc. Yeah, so sorry.
Yeah, I got fucking sidelined like 12 times there.
Go ahead.
Where was my note on that? God damn it. I wrote it somewhere. Oh, okay. So all this stuff happens with like 1,000 years ago. Namely, in this case, we're talking about the swamp fever outbreak. So it's like we're to believe that this was not talked about. Word about this was not spread to, other nearby villages or townships or cities or even the princesses, since they are clearly the established the established monarchy. Because this is a very serious problem. Simultaneously, in the very same season, we're told stories about 6 heroic or influential ponies of the era Viking hoof shovel
So
guy,
influential.
Egyptian horse, Centurion, Pegacenturion.
Fucking up shovel guy.
I don't remember their
Shovel
names.
guy.
Shovel Knight.
That's effectively what he was, a shovel knight. So you have all these ponies, in history at the same time who all came together to stop this greater evil, who was the other shadow.
Sure.
The other
shadow.
shit.
I'm calling him Shadow for now.
No, it's literally
Shitter.
canon the pony
Yeah.
of shadow, so you're good.
Pony of Shadows. Okay, that was what it is. So I don't think I believe that this would go unspoken. While the six of them were on watch, I'm sure that story would have been shared. I'm sure the story would have been spread. And if the disease were to go to the Everfree, I don't think I fully believe that Fluttershy of all ponies, throughout all these years, centuries and centuries, would be the one to discover this secret. Because I know that she would have just, recently had her adventurous experience with Sakura having gotten swamp fever, but I don't believe that this wouldn't have gone archived, especially if there was an infected tribe who just suddenly vanished all these years ago. And I know my thoughts are really jumbled right now, but when you consider these ancient ponies of history who Star Swirl's crew, the Avengers, Star Swirl's Avengers.
Yes.
Yeah. Same thing.
Thank you.
Star Swirl's Avengers sounds
The
so
Pillars
much
of
better.
Equestria themselves, I'm not a believer that they would not have made that discovery themselves. You know what I mean?
Well, think of it like Roanoke. I mean, these it's stated in the fic that whoever settled the village that got infected were separatists. So I think the whole point was they wanted to be outside of Celestia's and, whoever else might be serving under her influence.
That's true, and that's a very good point that did not occur to me. But I still feel like when you consider someone as legendary, who's been made to be as legendary as Star Swirl, that he would not have found that as like the sunrise of the forest as an anomaly. Do you know what does that make sense?
Well, I mean, I'm not completely disagreeing with you because I think where the fic and the episode meet, it's kind of meant to imply that this happened near where Mage Meadowbrook made her cure and all of that. So even in that sense, it doesn't... I can't remember if the episode... if Fluttershy found the cure in the Everfree or if she went off somewhere else where she met the cattail.
It was still the Everfree, just a different part of it.
Okay, and I mean, anyone who's seen an Eastern Forest, these places are huge. They're practically different countries sometimes, but so it makes sense. And to be honest, I have now kind of lost what I was going to say in counterpoint. Being, I don't completely disagree with you, but I do think the story works just because I remembered now. Saying that it's hard to imagine this happening while these heroes are around, because if it did happen, of course, they would have prevented it. That's kind of the same as a big issue that Ponyfic faces in general, is that, well, if this happened, Celestia should have fixed it. And part of that is an issue of how omnipotent Celestia is supposed to be sometimes. But I don't think it gets in the way of a story necessarily, as long as you're able to write your way around it. And I think writing them as separatists does that. And I think Honey has something to say.
I wasn't trying to interrupt you. I was just saying, in terms of Celestia being omniscient, it is kind of established in season 9 that she intentionally lets bad things happen because she knows they'll be resolved. But that's not the case here, so that doesn't apply.
Technically, it was resolved. The separatists stayed separate.
Separate as they can
Yeah,
get.
they got what
I
they
guess
wanted.
so. And just to those are all very good counterpoints. It's I just want to like kind of reiterate. I did kind of tangent on my points I was trying to make, and I apologize for that. But I think what I was trying to get across was that I wasn't expecting, the problem to be fixed. More that I was kind of, I would have thought that it would have been like, identified and like archived. You know what I mean? Like for, historical records and stuff.
Well, and that's why I brought up Roanoke, because I think that's much closer to Equestria in terms of understanding. I've made this point in previous podcasts that nowadays we find it very difficult to imagine anything happening without it being on social media somewhere and everyone around the world knowing about it in the next couple of minutes. Whereas you go back just a century and it's entirely possible for entire cities or ships or anything to disappear, and there's we have no way of knowing what happened to it. Because Roanoke, had it, we all know what probably really happened. So they just were idiots and didn't know how to survive and died. But Voyage went there, they settled it, they had their supplies. It wasn't really in a great place to begin with because of logistical errors and leadership being dumb. But they sailed back to England, said, we're going to come back for you. We're going to have the rest of our resources, and we're going to really get this colony going. 3 years later, they sail back from England. Colony's gone without a trace, and to this day, there is no historical information to know for certain what happened, even though there's plenty of theories that probably happened. I took this to be very similar. It was a village that went off beyond the reach of Equestria, and as a result, it disappeared, and there's no way for anyone to know what happened, because no one made it out alive in this case.
I mean, maybe Twilight Sparkle, has a record or something, or is able to access one, but it still wouldn't have much information.
I think NP was right. We really planted this seed, and it's taken its own root. We're growing all these different fics out of this 1,000-year story. Yeah, I did that too.
I see what you did there.
That's what always happens on this podcast.
I think we're up to 7 now.
So the next point is this story more than just its premise?
No.
Okay, how did you get to go first then, apparently?
Ooh, that's actually the point we've been on all this time. But
I made a point.
Yes or no, honey, is it more than its premise?
No.
Elaborate, maybe?
No.
No, it is not. Luna, since you've only just joined us recently and only just read it,
I will attempt
what do you think?
to elaborate, having just finished the fic this moment.
Yeah, it doesn't take long.
First impressions.
It takes long when I'm also trying to listen to a lot of you.
We're just spouting bullshit most of the time.
I mean, this is also a nitpick at the prose style as well, because that's my big thing. That's the first thing I notice when I read a fic. I feel like this story does not ever stretch beyond the bounds that it has set for itself. It tries to by attempting to build up an atmosphere of dread. You can see it in how the certain trigger phrases are structured and where they're placed, and the attempt at build-up and so on. But the payoff is so flat that I am left not really thinking about anything beyond what the fic intended me to think about. So for that reason, I feel like it not only does less, not does less, I'm sorry. I didn't sleep very well last night. It not only does not extend beyond the boundaries, not the boundaries, but beyond the intention it created for itself, but I think is actually underwhelming.
Okay. So is that
partially because of the whole I can't tell anyone, but I can't say why thing.
So do you reckon that the prose style damages the premise of the fic then?
To a degree, because it feels like they're trying very hard to write the image or the skeleton or the facsimile of a story that has tension. It's ruined by... It's yet again one of those fics that either needs to be way longer or condensed. That's even possible in this one.
Actually, I think it could be condensed because we really need all that information about her journey through the Everfree.
It's the fact that it jumps between a sentence that's attempting to create dread and then going from she left this place and then she was here and she saw this. It's a bit telly.
I like exploring old ruins, but that's just me.
Mood. I like
I
it.
like exploring old ruins, but I feel like if you're going to try to build up tension in old ruins, you should take longer to do it than this did.
It felt a bit half-hearted in that regard.
Especially because the payoff is so dull, in my opinion.
Okay, why do you think it's dull?
Because it's one village. It's not like it doesn't really. It's one village out of the entire Everfree.
One village.
It's just a couple of hundred
They were
ponies, it's fine.
They were separatist
Look,
scum.
what I'm saying
Spoken
is
like a
that
true
there is
psychopath.
it makes it makes no attempt to actually plant the idea that more ponies have suffered this fate.
I can't get past the fact that now I'm just imagining bat ponies coming in and poisoning the water supply.
Oh my god!
It was one village.
It is done, Highness.
Fic number 7.
No, that's 8.
No,
We're on 8 now.
No, my thing is that the story focuses so much on this one village to which this happened that it makes no attempt to expand the idea, even in implication. Or maybe it does make an attempt, but it's so weak that you don't even notice it until afterward. And so you're not left thinking, oh god, how many other villages have suffered this fate? You're left thinking, oh yeah, this is Roanoke.
But I have to say, I don't think that's the point at all. I mean, I don't see why there has to be a big worldwide threat. The whole point is that this is a rare disease and that it hit this village and
why
the village succumbed
why
to
then
it.
couldn't she tell anyone? Are they going to go?
No, I'm not.
If they know, are they going to go into the forest and try to find out and turn into trees?
No, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you on that point. We've already kind of hashed that out, that the ending was anticlimactic and that there is no reason for her to have a secret to keep. I think we had that before you joined up. But
really, my point is more that the story does not leave you thinking about anything other than what it intended you to think of.
And yet we're 2 hours in.
Again.
How?
It leaves me thinking about something else.
And we wrote like 7 fanfics grown off
8?
of the idea of the questions that it left us.
Growing off. Ha 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 ha.
I'll
I
leave
just
it
find
alone.
this story rather underwhelming.
I think we
Yeah,
all
I
did.
agree.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
I think the whelming part is the fact that these people got fed up with Celestia and Luna and went to form their own colony in the woods. I think there's
Yeah.
a lot more to that part
That's
of the story
more
than meets an
interesting than this.
much more. And we only have Fluttershy's word for it, that the trees in their current condition are miserable. It may be that when you become a full tree from this fever, you actually achieve nirvana. You see the world in a whole new way and you have eternal life, and it's just a happy, blissful place to be. We only have...
The first thought that I have is that I've been playing Divinity 2 lately, and one of the things I liked about that game was that elves, rather than being immortal, turn into planted as ancestor trees when they die, and then they become sentient trees that interact with their families and their descendants for years to come. So, I'm reading this, and that might be influencing my kind of unimpressed reaction to this, because it doesn't seem like a necessarily horrific thing unless you're actually alone in the woods with nobody to interact with as a tree.
Narrator?
The story is not more than just its premise, but that's okay.
Yes.
Why is that okay then?
We've written 8 more stories that, for the most part, expound upon this idea, and it's well, why do they want to be separate from the royals? What's the story there? And what's the origin of the disease itself? Was it in the well? But I think that's not what the author was going for. The author was going for a relatively short story that explored this very singular, very focused idea that the Everfree Forest is composed of
Yep.
ponies that have turned into trees. I don't think it needs to be any more than that.
It's so often spoken of in canon and fanon that Fluttershy wonders what it would like to be a tree. That's just an interesting parallel.
Interesting choice of why Fluttershy? Why did the author choose to use Fluttershy and not one of the other characters?
Because
could be
the
because
episode?
well, that's one possibility. But interesting that they chose to use Fluttershy when there's so many cases in the story where Fluttershy wants to be a tree. There's the episode on the train where they're talking about Fluttershy would like to be a tree, and during the another one, Rainbow Dash finds her hiding disguised as a tree, and that keeps happening. I think there's like 6 instances or so.
I think that was something they were referencing in the actual show, though, when she nearly turned into a tree and decided, actually, I don't want this.
Oh god, fic number 9. Fluttershy used to be a tree in the Everfree Forest and only thinks she was born in
She was
friggin'
patient
Cloudsdale
zero.
and got
Holy
adopted.
shit.
Haven't
There
even
you
thought about
go.
that one.
Oh my god.
Scootaloo's parents
Oh my
are
god,
trees.
she's the typhoid Mary.
No, Applejack's parents are
Oh
trees.
no!
Oh fuck.
Scootaloo used to be an apple
They're
tree, and that's
literally
why
the
she's orange
tree.
like Applejack.
9, 10, 11.
Shall we move on?
Goody must be going fucking nuts.
Thorny, I think you had something to say, and then we're moving on to point 8.
I think NP actually kind of asked the question that I was going to ask, is that not so much whether the story is more than its premise, but is it okay to just be its premise? And honestly, I don't know much about short stories, but I think that is actually a valid thing to do, just to have a story that is literally just oh hey, maybe this was a thing. I'm not saying that it carried it off very well. Once again, I think we all agree that it was anticlimactic. But I've definitely
I do not agree. Don't speak for me, but
Sorry. But I've definitely seen other stories that were literally just an idea and no other development or theme. Just because I literally came across this one by Neil Gaiman about 3 or 4 days ago. That's titled Nicholas Was, and it's literally 100 pages long. 100 words, I'm sorry. 100 pages would not be a short story.
It's a double.
It's literally just a single idea. I could actually read it out for you if you wanted real quick, or I can just tell you what it is.
Go on.
Okay, and we can do this because it's for educational and criticism purposes. So, and if I start to imitate his accent and make myself sound dumb, I'm sorry. It's hard not to do.
I will call you out on it since you called me out
Fair.
for sounding like Tracer for all my accents. So get ready for that. Go on.
Okay, so Nicholas was older than sin, and his beard could grow no wider. He wanted to die. The dwarfish natives of the Arctic caverns did not speak his language, but conversed in their own twittering tongue, conducted incomprehensible rituals when they were not actually working in the factories. Once every year they forced him, sobbing and protesting, into endless night. During the journey, he would stand near every child in the world, leave one of the dwarves' invisible gifts by its bedside. The children slept, frozen into time. He envied Prometheus and Loki, Sisyphus and Judas. His punishment was harsher. Ho, ho, ho. And that's not me referencing Die Hard. That's in the story. But so that's an unbelievably short story, and its point is literally just Santa Claus is not doing this by choice. He's actually imprisoned by elder gods, and this is his eternal punishment. Why, we don't know. And this story kind of feels like it's doing the same thing, and not as well. It's not fair to compare anyone to Neil Gaiman, though.
That
One
is
must
a
imagine
great-
Sisyphus happy.
That is a great point, Thorny. That was a very thank you for bringing that up.
You're welcome. But yeah, I guess I'm just trying to answer the question of, is it enough for this fic to do that? And I think so. It may not be what everyone wants. I definitely wanted more to happen in this story. I wanted, more history, more malevolence, just something more, but
I think the Neil Gaiman piece you just read pulls it off because, I want to say it's Neil Gaiman, but there's more to it.
it's true.
Because he implies the malevolence and the history and the things you're looking for. This one does not do that very effectively at all. Despite having more words in which to do it.
And I'm agreeing with you because you said as effectively, because I think it does do it at points, just as you said, not as effectively. And I can't really fault anyone for that. I think the author set out to do something, and they accomplished it to a degree. I can't really fault them for not doing a completely perfect job, is what I think I'm trying to say.
Well, I don't think it was ever meant to be perfect.
Well, everything is, and nothing is.
And thus we have the human condition. Everything is perfect, and nothing is perfect. Shall we move on to the next point?
I believe so.
I'll just open the doc, because I've stupidly closed it. Okay, so Guti asked this one, so we will start with Guti. So, what do we reckon the implications for the rest of Equestria is from this point going forward, where Fluttershy and Zecora are aware of this curse?
I don't know that Zecora's aware of it.
Didn't she tell her what it was in the first place?
Well, she had it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. She had it, and she told Fluttershy about it.
But yeah, she's not aware of this place in the forest where all these trees are surrounded by stones with eyes.
To be honest, I would think I would have liked it better if Zecora had been the one to go off and find them. Because she would have kept it to herself.
I think if I remember the episode correctly, it has been a while. It was actually the
Maybe
Ponyville...
she did keep it to herself.
It was actually the Ponyville doctor who diagnosed Zecora and told them what this was, and that as far as equestrian medical knowledge was concerned, it was incurable. Which Fluttershy refuses to accept.
So this is not a mysterious disease, then?
No, but it's a very rare
categorized.
One. It's stated in the episode that it's, as far as they're concerned, extremely rare. Because no one goes into the Everfree, except Zecora, Fluttershy, and occasional adventurers, and we have an invader.
Oh god. Again.
Let's go away.
Banhammer!
It's okay. We've moved beyond Thunderdome, so it's okay.
Banned.
Who and why and how?
No, he disconnected before I could ban him.
I will.
I'm gonna have to change the password on this.
Yes, I will help you put a password or something on the mobile server when we're done here.
That's three invaders in 2 hours. What the fuck has been going on while we've not been around?
I cannot help but get the distinct feeling that there must be some kind of way people are getting access to this from a Discord or something, because that's a lot in one go at one time.
But yeah, as far as implications for the world at large, I think that's just a place the story, and I am going to say didn't bother to go, because with the story as written and the length as it is, yes, once again, I would have preferred it if it had done more. So there, as the story's written, there's not really... The story's written in a way that it just says, okay, my curiosity is satisfied and we're done. It never says anything more is going to come of this for Equestria. And that's something that I think we all can very easily say, well, if it turns villages into forests, then this could be something that takes over the entire world. Honestly, the novel Uprooted by Naomi Novik has this kind of idea of a malevolent forest that is trying to transform the world by force, and it is one of the most excellent examples of otherworldly magic I have ever read, and I highly recommend it. But yeah, I don't think this story ever even wanted to say, oh, well, what next? I just don't think that's a question it concerns itself with.
Well, see, that's something that bothers me, because there's that one line it has about it being the source of the magic of the Everfree, and why it's free from the control of ponies, who are basically like minor gods controlling the natural cycles, except for this one place.
I said, yeah,
What's
I was talking earlier, that drove me crazy too.
And this is supposedly this is the source of the magic of the Everfree. So if it's not trying to say that this is an existential threat to ponies, is it trying to say that, like, at large, is it trying to say that the Everfree is simply more dangerous than ponies give it credit for because they don't know about this? Which leads again back into why can't you tell anyone? But everyone went over that already. Fuck, I lost it.
This hardly seems more dangerous than anything else they've encountered in the Everfree. I don't see what's particularly horrible about this. I mean, it's not no worse than a cockatrice.
Nah,
True.
I think as far as my answer to its implications, I think the story is literally just saying this was a thing that happened, and it's an. I don't think it means anything for
That
the world at
ponies
large.
turned into trees and that became the Everfree. Like, I don't think that this.
That's an origin story.
It doesn't come across to me as this. It doesn't come across to me as this is how the Everfree came about. This comes across to me as they went into the Everfree trying to escape Celestia because the Everfree is the only place they know of that is safe from the influence of ponies who have control over nature, like they literally do. Then they fell victim to this disease, which, for whatever reason, I suppose, fed their life energy or something into the forest to keep it free. So that's almost like saying it's some sort of organism, like on a massive scale.
I think it's pretty clearly stated in the end of the story. I don't know if it's clearly stated that that there was no forest when the ponies moved there, but I think it's pretty clearly stated that the ponies moved there. They encountered a plant that they had never seen before. They all turned into trees, and from there, the Everfree spread out around them, feeding on their now uncontrolled magic.
Well, no, there's not. Okay, this is what the actual passage says, and that's where I think you and I disagree. Yes, Fluttershy now knew the secret of the Everfree. She knew of the tribe who had come into the woods to live free and alone. She knew they had encountered a plant unlike any other they had seen. She knew they'd been afflicted, and by the time they realized they were doomed, there was no way they could send for help. She knew now the source of the Everfree's magic, how it was able to grow and remain wild despite Equestria's best efforts.
Okay, so yeah, you are correct. It does say that there was a forest there. I think my interpretation blended. I do still read that as maybe the Everfree Forest wasn't such a big deal back then, but now that they are trapped there, they are feeding its power. Whether it had power before or not, I still don't know. But I definitely read this as an origin story for the Everfree Forest.
Yeah, I would read that as there was a wood there before, and they went into it, but in being turned into part of it, it connected their magic to the existing woods and made it the Everfree Forest.
My
That's kind of
thoughts
weak.
are, it says remain wild, so I have a feeling they went there on purpose because it was not under the control of ponies and the like. Because to them, symbolically, that means they are free from Celestia's power as well.
I think either works that way.
Is the poem a spell?
Oh shit!
Oh.
Because that's...
I didn't think of that.
Yeah, thinking about it, it's carved into a tree, and it's odd to me that it would be just randomly carved into this, specifically described as a sturdy oak tree, not like the others. It really reads to me that maybe the poem was a spell.
Okay,
All
I
right.
really like that.
All right, so the leader of the separatist colony, it was actually a cult, and that was part of his magical incantation, and then he went all fucking Jonestown and shit.
Fic 9.
Oh my god.
Drink the Will-Aid.
Oh. Holy shit. No, I think that's like 13 now.
Oh my god.
Scribbler can tell us when she edits this. Okay, have we said enough on that point?
Probably.
I think we
Can I
quite
cross off
exhausted that
number
point.
7? All right. Implications for the world at large. We could probably roll this into point number 9 too.
Well, that's what we just did, but yeah.
Oh.
We just did 8.
I admit I lost track. All right. I think I put in number 9 then. What do we call this sort of fic? Headcanon dump? World building? World patching?
I just call it a concept fic. I don't know if that's the proper technical term, but yeah, just this short little, I have an idea, and I put it into written form, and I am good. That's kind of where Neil Gaiman's story sits for me, and that's how I categorize this.
You called it an origin story earlier, and I think that fits pretty well also.
Earlier, NP, you had said the words when we were asking if the story was more than its premise. You said no, and that's fine. And I 100% agree with that. I think to kind of go along with what Thorny was saying, it's a concept fic. It was kind of written in a way that just... a lot of us talked earlier when we talked about, trees across the world, still in the swamp or even in the Everfree. I think this was kind of written as a piece to just kind of be like, hey, think about it. Think about it. And look at us for the past couple hours. We've been thinking about it, postulating on all these other possible fics that this could branch off into. The pun is half intended because I just realized I didn't.
It's a slice of death.
Ooh.
No, that's
Okay.
That's just what
Salome.
Cygnus writes.
Keiko Death?
But yeah,
That's just Salome as
Eddie, is there
infinitude.
anyone?
I think the only thing I would say is that if you're going to write this kind of story, you want to be sure that you have an idea that if you're going to edit this out, I'm starting over. If you're going to write this kind of story that is just an idea, you want to make sure that your idea is an interesting one. The idea that Santa Claus is either a mortal cursed to immortality and serving children forever, that's freaking interesting. The idea of a village going off and becoming lost and suffering a horrible unknown fate, that to me is interesting enough that I enjoyed reading the story. I'm not sad that I read it. But I think that definitely varies more by taste.
I haven't been keeping track of who went. Anybody else want to weigh in?
I would say it's maybe an expanded outline. It's not really a story unto itself. It's more the idea for a story that I would have preferred have some expanding on, but as it is, it's fine. I think it serves the purpose it was supposed to. I would just say it's a little truncated for my taste.
God damn it.
Well done. I'm not even mad.
Not even mad?
All right, that's how I'm mad.
See, we had a preload. Our tree pun ratio was surprisingly small but now we're bringing it. Now we're catching up.
Now we
I had
know
to
what
meet
we're
the
doing
quota.
and we need to stop.
No, we need to do more before we leave.
I hate you.
No, you don't.
No, I don't.
I'm going to log out if you guys don't stop.
Honestly, we probably are into final thoughts territory, which is unfortunate because I think Scribbler is still gone.
Oh, why don't we do final thoughts then, and hopefully she comes back.
Shall we begin?
Yeah, since you guys are moderating for me, go for it.
Well, you should at least say who goes first.
Goody, go for it.
Okay. This feels like the type of fic that was written shortly after the episode came out. And that's totally okay because, I think that people who are watching the show, they'll want to they like expanding on new ideas. When show writers give us, premise and lore, leave it to fans to speculate and indulge in their own creativity and kind of speculate more ideas to others who enjoy the show. Is that not the wonders of fan fiction, and just fictional works in general? I think that with that kind of mentality, it's not bad. It doesn't go into mass exploration territory, but it's I think it's there to open your mind and think about how this could have affected the world. any tree you see in Equestria could have been may once have been a pony.
Ooh.
Go ahead, honey.
Oh no, that was pretty much it. That's my thoughts on the story. Like finger wiggles and ooh, spooky. Yeah, I mean that's what it is as fic.
As Thorny put it earlier, campfire stuff.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine.
This story could have been 1,100 words shorter. Just ooh, spooky.
God damn it.
Jeez.
Illya?
Just two thoughts. One, once again, it read more like a poem than a story to me. And two, who put the damn stones around the trees?
I think those were the foundations of the houses, if I understood correctly.
Yeah, that was my impression.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it would have been better if they had been more than foundations. That part was left to be a little ambiguous. They could have had like a fully formed house and just a tree growing out of the house.
I was
Really-
expecting, when they said circles of stones, I was expecting some voodoo shit going down, but I was
Me
left
too.
wanting there.
It's what it might have been something small they could have done to spruce things up a little bit.
Back.
God damn it. Not to you being back to NP punning.
Thanks.
So
Wow.
rude.
Sorry.
Back. God damn it.
What were you lot up to while I wasn't here? Were you doing role play with Mad Max and Uthred?
Getting the podcast done.
We're on final thoughts.
Okay. It's good because, like, the joint is nearly done, so I need to go and cook in a second.
Oh, you'll smoke another one.
I think it's Luna's turn.
Luna?
I mean, I have had less time to consider this fic than the lot of you have, from my understanding. Unless you all also read the fic whilst doing the podcast.
I read it 10 minutes before we started.
I read it yesterday,
enough.
but
Wow.
Same.
That's still more
Wow.
time. I think I gave my opinions in my roundabout and rambling way during the course of this, and my final thoughts are that this is a story that has potential to which it failed to quite live.
Okay.
It's not a bad story. It is a meh story.
It was a
One
bit
would all say
sappy.
that's worse than being a bad story. At least a bad story is interesting.
Failed to live like the village. God choked me
Oh,
for that one.
wow. No. You cannot have coronavirus. You're not allowed.
No, we're gonna. I mean, it's just one village, right?
Fuck's sake. There's XQZ now.
Fucking ruin my joke.
Banhammer.
Wow, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
After this, NP definitely
Yeah,
see
help,
about
please.
securing this.
Yes.
Okay.
Where the fuck do we end up?
Who's done final thoughts? Who hasn't?
I think I'm last, except we end on NP, but yeah. Okay. As for my final thoughts, I liked this story more after I'd thought about it for a little bit than I did right after I finished reading it. Right when I finished it, my first thought was, and that's it? So I think there is more here than is apparent on the surface, much like a dead pony trapped in bark. But I think...
Ooh.
But I think my criticism still stands too. It is anticlimactic. I do wish more had been done to build on the idea rather than just writing out the original idea all by itself. But like I said, I'm not sorry I read it. That's such wonderful praises, and I'm not sorry I read it.
From
I
you?
did-
I mean, there could be
I-
worse.
I did enjoy it. We'll leave there.
I'm going to go out on a limb here
Hey.
and I'm going to leave you with the impression that we started at the root of the story and
Oh,
branched
boy.
out from there.
I don't get
Really
it.
splintered
Stop.
off.
Okay, it's incredibly rude of you to say that.
I don't, I don't get it.
I think Goody's just bored.
No.
Shall we finish lumbering along and finish out?
Jesus Christ.
I
So,
think it's
I
just
have
me
to
and then MP, isn't it?
Don't be a
I'll go
stickler,
next.
Thorny.
Ah,
Oh, boy.
Thorny.
My name is a pun here. I
Thornton.
am your god.
Oh, this has turned into Aprilverse.
At least we're
I will
treating
take
him
my
right this
twig
time.
ass over there.
My plot has finally come to fruition.
Stop.
I'm gonna soil myself.
NP,
I'm
give your
gonna-
final thoughts. Scribbler
I'm
can
gonna
finish
leave
us
this
out.
place.
It was a good fic for what it was. It doesn't have to be something really in depth and involved. It's exactly what it says on the tin, and it was spooky. So overall, I like the story, and I'm gonna put a ring on it.
Certainly sprouted an interesting discussion.
I just love the fact that MP said it does exactly what it says on the tin, which is very much a British phrase. You don't have tins, you have cans.
People keep calling me out everywhere. I'm being
You're being Britishized.
It's
Britishized.
it's also a TV trope name.
Oh, is it now?
Yeah.
Oh. My final thoughts. It's alright. I don't think it outlived its premise, but Jade Ring's a good author and has lots of other good stuff. So I don't think that this fic damages him as an author. I think it sprouted some honey that's stuck in my head and I used it unironically then. It I can't even say it grew some nice stuff. It engendered some nice discussions and some possible world building. And I think for a story like this, that's really all we can ask of it. We're thinking about it
at the end of the
afterwards.
day, it left you pining for more.
Right, we're gonna goodbye now. Goodbye.
And
Could use some sprucing up.
Okay. How are they all
It
these
grew
puns
some, a whole
and
new
we don't
meaning.
even have Midori in chat?
Those two really missed out this time.
They did.
I am leaving.
Oh, ha, ha, ha.
I also am going to log off.
End us.
I'm pining for more.
Oh.
Cut
Right,
this
we
down and
have-
end it.
We have been them's writing words. So it's goodbye from us. Goodbye from Goody.
I'm pining for more puns. Bye.
Honey.
Tree pun.
Illya.
I want a taco.
Luna.
Hi.
Thorny.
I'm a thorn.
And Neighrator Pony.
Who could ask for more?
Well, we can silly ask for more
Yay!
because I forgot to spin the wheel to see who's picking next time.
Oh, that, yeah.
I already have it set up, so I'm just going to spin the wheel and find out. So the people who are eligible this time are Guti, Honey, Illya, Luna, and Thorny. I think.
I thought
Thorny,
I
are you
wasn't
eligible?
eligible.
Are you not eligible?
I don't think
Right.
I am.
I'll take you out.
you're very eligible, Thorny.
No, he's not. He's married.
Eh?
Yeah, you say that to
Oh
NP.
boy. Yeah. Spin the wheel. Oh
The
my.
wheel is spinning, 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 spinning. It's landed on Honey.
God damn it. Okay. I do have a pick. I picked it before we started the podcast, and
Well
It's
done.
with-
Before we started.
yeah. Well, at least not during this time.
I definitely picked it before we started the podcast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. I'm not googling it as we speak. Just stalling for time. So it's a longer one, and it's a popular one, and I don't know if
A
we've
popular
reviewed it.
one?
Yeah. So I don't know if we've reviewed this yet. I don't think we have, and maybe this is going to be a controversial one, but I picked Silent Ponyville
Oh,
Oh no.
because
Oh
I
my
have
God.
thoughts, and
the
I
original Silent Ponyville.
Yes, and I specifically want people to also read the alternate endings because those will be a point of discussion.
Goody, we're all coming to your channel
Goody.
to listen to this version again.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to drum up some views for you, man.
I live.
So yeah, Silent Ponyville.
So next time we
Nice.
will be reviewing Silent Ponyville. And with that, we bid you adieu, dear listener. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Tree fun, tree fun.
No.
Tree pun, tree pun, tree pun.
Good night.
Good morning for you lot.
Scribbler, when you make the thumbnail for this, I really want a vector of Bloomberg from MLP looking all dark and sinister looming over Honey going, woo.
Spooky.
With a hole drilled in her head, and she said, tree punning. I thought you meant tree panning.
I really thought you were going to say tree pegging there.
I would also still approve. Did you just bark at me?
Okay, I'm done.
MP is a horn dog.
I have fulfilled my duty to all of you.
It's like
And I'm
watching
Thank
your
you all for
parents
showing
flirt.
up on Easter Sunday. I love you all so much. I'm so sorry.
like I'm
Be
doing
sorry.
anything else.
Yeah. I already played Animal Crossing. Egg Day's done.
Oh my god, can you be friends with Kaylee? She needs Animal Crossing.
Hell yes.
All right.
Right, I need to secure this server.
I need to fucking go to sleep.
I need to
Can we
pee.
do that?
Talking
I
about
need
Alright,
to make
let's-
food.
we talk about burritos and
Alright.
stuff. I just want to have like a breakfast burrito.